Thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm so honored to share this space with you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Alex Moroch. I am a bulldog mother of 2 and business owner living in Los Angeles. If you haven't been to LA or know much about it, I can tell you 2 things that I know for certain. First, the traffic is horrible. And secondly, the cost of living is unimaginably high. About 1.5 years ago, I decided that I was going to move in with my partner and our 2 bulldogs. And at the time, she had a roommate. When we approached her roommate to let her know that we were going to be enmeshing our lives together, her roommate's response was mixed. On one hand, she was really happy for us, and on the other hand, you could see her fear rising of the anticipation of finding someone to live with. So at the time, I decided that I was going to put myself in her shoes and actually go through the process myself of looking for a roommate in Los Angeles. So I went to Google, and I typed in looking for a roommate in LA. What I was presented with was a plethora of different advertisements, URLs for room shares and leasing opportunities in Los Angeles, and also Craigslist postings. So I went to Craigslist, and when I got to Craigslist, I was immediately disappointed. Most of what I saw were postings without photos, and of the postings with photos, they were a bit questionable. And a lot of what I saw were men looking for roommates and room shares. For instance, this is Rick. Rick is an attractive, older, white male looking for an attractive female roommate and girlfriend. Rick was not only looking for someone to share his house with, but he was also looking for someone to share his bed with. From there, my friends told me to check out Facebook housing groups. So I joined these private Facebook housing groups in order to do research. And it wasn't what they were looking for that I found really interesting. It was who and what they were looking for. This gentleman, for instance, was looking for a vegetarian housemate. She was willing to exchange pet sitting services with her future roommate. And this guy on the end was just looking to do his former roommates a solid and trying to find someone to fill his room. It was about at this time that I realized I was onto something and that I had an idea. And from what I know about ideas is that if you can identify the problem, the challenge, and possible solutions, that you can do anything. So we did our research. We knew that of a total population size in LA of about 3.8 million people, that 52% of them rent, making that a viable market of about 1.8 million renters. We also knew through further research that about 39% of that 1.8 million people were under the age of 35, making there this viable rental market of people under the age of 35 living in LA. And we thought that if we could build something and just tap into 1% of that population of people, just 1%, that was about 10,000 people, and it seemed doable. So we started to identify the problems. We knew that there was a lack of channels to establish niche communication and trust on the internet. We also knew that cost of living had increased so much that it was pricing people out of the market, and more people were forced to find roommates to live with in order to have a place to live. We also knew that in Los Angeles, that short-term rental opportunities were in demand because we lived in a more transient society. And also, from our research, there was just some sketchy people out there. And almost everyone has a horrible roommate story, unfortunately. From here, we identified the challenge. And the challenge was the medium for communication for people to utilize in finding roommates. We knew that of this viable market of people in LA, that 770,000 people under the age of 35, that more likely than not, they were going to have a mobile device and they were going to know how to use a mobile app. So we laid out the framework for a mobile app We mocked up what the profile page was gonna look like, what our candidate page could look like, what an inbox thread could look like. And from there, we went on to building a roommate matching application. Technology has completely changed the way that we date. We thought, why not change the way that we find roommates? From here is where we started to identify who our target market was. In order to reach those people, we had to know who they were, what they did, what kind of income that they had, things that they liked doing, enjoying a good Netflix series, tasting yummy craft coffee beans. We had to identify who this person was, and we had a good handle on it. So for the last 5 months, we've been building this thing. There are a couple of key learnings and takeaways that you can utilize when you're taking an idea and you're turning it into action. First is that I'm telling you now, you'll learn more from what you do wrong rather than what you do right. Failures are not weaknesses, they make you wiser. Secondly, you have to embrace your unique identifier. Figure out what separates you from the other people that are doing something along the same thing that you are. You don't want to be a Me Too brand or a product, but you want to do it differently. And ask for help. I know that people are scared to ask for help because they don't want to seem like they don't know what they're talking about, but asking for help has been one of the most valuable things that I've done in my life. And lastly, you can do anything that you set your mind to if you do it a little bit differently than everyone else. And trust yourself that if you have an idea, you can make it come to life. Thank you so much.